Hey guys, Nandhini here with the goanchesstrio and it's time for another Rubinstein game. Today we shall have a look at the game where Rubinstein plays a flawless rook endgame. He plays the black pieces against Schlechter, who was the World Championship challenger in 1910 against Emanuel Lasker, and that was a hard-fought battle where Lasker managed to win the last round and therefore equalize the scores to 5-all and therefore retain his title. So it's clear from this that Schlechter would not give it easy, but Rubinstein continues his flawless play and wins comfortably. e4, e6, we have the French defense, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, and d into e4. When d into e4 was played, this line came to be known as the Rubinstein variation. It could also go with another move order where black captures d into e4 immediately when he gets the chance. That is on move number 3. Let's go back. Let me show you. Here d into e4, knight into e4, and it continues. Anyway, the game went knight f6, bishop g5, and after d into e4, it converts to one of the lines. So after knight into e4, knight b d7, knight f3, bishop e7, just removing the pin, and here the knight's attacked. So knight into f6 check, knight into f6, bishop d3, and Rubinstein chose to play the move b6 over here. This was a recent novelty at that point of time, and Rubinstein decided to try it out in this game. And as we've already seen in the past couple of games, Rubinstein did like to play with the fianchetto. So here came knight e5, immediately trying to take advantage of the weakened light squares. Rubinstein continues with bishop b7. And again, white continues with the same approach and plays the move bishop b5 check. And it does make sense because black cannot play knight e7. Neither does he have the bishop on c8 to block in with, bishop d7. So here it seems like black has just two options. One is loose castling by playing the move king f8, or play the move c6 and sacrifice a pawn. And Rubinstein chose the latter. So he chose to play the move c6. And here, white has a variety of options. In the game, he continued bishop c6. We'll just see in a minute. Let's have a look at the other options. He could also try knight into c6, but this would be a huge blunder because here black has queen d5, and this is 4 threats at once. The pawn's attacked, both the bishops attacked, the knight's attacked, and white cannot save all his pieces at once, and he's going to lose at least a piece in this variation. So not possible. Another option to consider is queen f3, pinning the c6 pawn, and in fact now threatening to capture the c6 pawn. And if black captures the bishop, well, he captures black's bishop. But again, black has the very nice queen d5, and everything is saved, and black is doing very fine in this position. So going back, he played the move bishop into c6 in the game, but maybe bishop e2 would have been a better option for white to continue with. Anyway, he played bishop into c6, and after bishop into c6 came knight into c6, and again the magical queen d5. The queen just loves the d5 square, and here we have the knight attacked, we have the bishop attacked, we have the pawn attacked. Again, if white does try to capture knight into e7, it's not going to work because black has queen into g5. Now the king is threatening to capture this e7 knight, so knight c6 is forced. And after queen into g2, we again have a double attack, and white loses at least a piece. So going back, he chose to play knight e5, defending the knight, defending the bishop, and Rubinstein continued with queen into pawn. And he has recovered the pawn that he had sacrificed earlier. But an important thing to note down is, if you do see the pawn structure, black's having the superior pawn structure right now because white has the f and h pawns that are isolated. So the game continued, queen f3. And after queen into f3, knight into f3, this endgame is slightly better for black because he has a superior pawn structure, as I have already mentioned. But it's not going to be easy to make anything of it. So it continued rook c8, developing the rook, attacking the c2 pawn, and white played the very natural long castles and defending the c2 pawn. And here, I would request you all to pause the video and ask yourself, how should black continue? So here, Rubinstein continued with knight d5, a really good move in this position because black wants to get rid of white's dark squared bishop on g5, so that after that he can take control of the dark squares on the board. So the game continued. Bishop into e7, king into e7. White just got rid of the pin with king b1 and getting the rook into the game, rook hd8, rook hg1, attacking g7. So pawn to g6. And please note, this endgame is not immediately winning for black, and white can definitely hold this. But Rubinstein plays flawlessly and converts this one. Let's have a look. So here the move, knight e5 was played by white, centralizing the knight. And now again, time to pause the video and ask yourself, how should you continue? So here, the knight on e5 is centralized and is white's best placed piece. So Rubinstein decided to get rid of it immediately. And how does he do that? He played the move knight b4, definitely attacking the c2 pawn, but his actual idea is getting back to c6 and challenging the e5 knight. So here comes c3, knight c6, and here knight into c6 was played in the game, but white could have also tried knight g4 or so, but he may not have been very comfortable because again after rook d5, the rook is getting to h5, and he may have thought that maybe with the knights off the board, the rook endgame will be easier to hold. And yes, if you are having a weaker pawn structure or a slightly minus position, that is the way you think. So he continued with knight into c6, and after rook into c6, white played the move rook d3, trying to activate his rook and basically get the rook to the h3 spot. Now over here in this position, instead of rook d3, white's better choice would have been rook g5, not allowing black to play the move rook d5 and activate his rook. But anyway, let's get back to the game. Rook d3 was played. White did have something in mind when he played rook d3. So rook d5 idea, rook h5. So white stops it immediately with the move rook h3, attacking the h7 pawn, and now black continued with h5, defending the pawn. Now, white has taken care of black's threat of rook h5 in the long run because now the pawn is on the h5 square, so black will never get rook h5, right? But now after this is where white went wrong. White made a mistake in this position and played the move rook f3. Again, time to pause the video and ask yourself, why is this a mistake and how should black continue? So, over here, Rubinstein played the move e5. A simple yet stunning move because now this opens up the position for the black rooks and of course for the black king's entry. It could have been that Schlechter did not miss this move, and he had intended to play the move rook g5 in this position. And right after reaching this position, he may have realized that there is a refutation for it and he cannot play it. So again, let's have a look at rook g5. And again, time for you all to pause the video and try to find out what would have been Rubinstein's refutation if the move rook g5 was played. So yes, here the move is rook f6. And after rook into f6, king into f6, the rook is attacked. So rook into e5 would not have been possible for white because after rook into e5, d into e5, king into e5, yes, the material is equal. But this pawn endgame is winning for black because he has the more active and centralized king. Going back, this was not the line we had to calculate. Here white has a move that looks very attractive to the eye, and that is f4. Defending the rook and now having an immediate threat of capturing the e5 pawn. So here comes a refutation, and black has e into f4. Amazing move. And after rook into d5, f3. And now the little princess is on her way to become a queen. So this is probably what Rubinstein may have calculated before playing e5, and Schlechter realized once the move e5 was played on the board, so he could not go with rook g5. He continued with d into e5, and after rook into e5, Schlechter chose rook e3, trying to trade rooks, and after rook into e3, f into e3, the point is the king gets a bit closer to the pawn to defend the weak pawn since the pawns are anyway weak. He may have felt this pawn structure, the pawn on e3, would have been better for him to defend, but regardless, the pawn structure is ruined and this endgame is winning for black. Rubinstein continued with rook e6, rook e1, rook f6, idea rook f2, and he makes way for his king to get in. So rook e2, just stopping the threat. King e6, the king marches on. King c2, king e5, c4 was played. He's trying to create some counterplay on the queen side. But a move like king d3, temporarily stopping king e4 would not work either because black has rook d6 check, king c2 and king e4, and he has reached his destination. So going back, he chose to play c4. And here, black continued with king e4, centralizing the king, putting pressure on e3 and gaining space advantage, of course. And white played b4, trying to create some pass pawns here. Black does the same on the king side with g5. It's going to be a pawn race now. And after king c3, g4, c5, h4, rook g2, attacking g4. So rook g6, just defending it. King c4, g3. Now both sides are creating the pass pawns. Black has already created his, and he has his king very, very close, and that is a huge advantage. So king b5, b into c5, b into c5, king f3, rook g1, and for what Rubinstein was known for, playing the simplest chess possible on the board, he did that right here, played the move a6, check to the king. Once the king moves, wherever he moves, then he'll continue with king f2 and win the game, because after that c6 is not possible. And this is where Schlechter resigned. So if you guys did enjoy this game, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video with another Rubinstein masterpiece. See you soon. Bye.